Hey everyone, welcome to a game, a very interesting one, between two very good Indian chess players. Although there is big rating difference between them, but we'll see that the game is dynamic and exciting and very instructive. So let's begin. So opens with e4, and we have a French advanced variation. This usually leads to very interesting games and very attacking game can be. So usually here black plays queen to b6 or bishop to d7. But in this game he adopts another variation, knight h6. This is also very good. It's exciting. It leads to a imbalanced position with very dynamic pawn structure. And simply black invites white here to break the king side, leads to very forcing lines. So white takes, as we can see the pawn structure on the king side. So in any endgame, black will have a disadvantage, but in compensation for this, black has a very dynamic game. Bishop b5, white trying to decrease the pressure on d4, queen b6, and queen e2. So you can see that black captures with the pawn and keeps the b file open for strong pressure on the b file. So black is hoping that by attacking on the queen side, it will divert white's attention from attacking its king side. So castles a5. Another advantage of this line for black is that the bad bishop on c8 is no longer bad, and black is already threatening to play a6 and skewer. So we can see that black has a very dynamic and open game. White plays rook c1 so that if exchanges happen, the rook can pressure on the c file. The bishop comes to a great diagonal, queen c2, protecting b2, keeping an eye on b2 and preparing knight to d2. e7. Black here would like to play rook b8 directly and start pressure on b2, but it first needs to coordinate its pieces, because if it plays rook b8 straight away and goes for such a line, it basically loses a rook. So before playing rook b8, he needs to play bishop e7, knight d2, and now rook b8. So you can see we are at a crossroads here. Black is attacking b2, and white has three ways to defend this. Can play b3, can play rook b1, and knight b3. Three moves are possible, playable, but each move leads to a different kind of game. White here chooses the most dynamic line, knight b3. By playing knight b3, white is ready to sacrifice a pawn, but in compensation, he can get good attacking opportunities. Now here it is not advisable to play c4, because after c4, let's say, white sacrifices, and this leads to very active play for white, and takes back the pawn and even ready to play knight d4 with an advantage. So it doesn't go for this, of course. That first takes on d4 and plays bishop to c4, attacking the knight. White simply plays h3 because soon can get very dynamic the game, so he doesn't want any bank rank problems. a4, c5. So as you can see, both sides have bad pawn structures now, but we should pause for a moment and see what are the plans for both sides. How should both sides play this position? After castle and rook e1, white wants to protect the e5, discourage bishop e2 moves. So what are the plans? So white wants to attack the king side, wants to transfer the queen to the king side so it can attack. Black wants to first stop that plan and, given the chance, attack these two pawns. This is a very important critical stage in the game. Uh, Black needs to be careful how he plays. First, the c pawn is not really important because if white takes, the rook can come and attack the c5 pawn that's gonna fall. What would you play here as black? Because this is a very critical position in the game. White's main idea is to play the queen towards the king side. Any attack on the side should be countered in the center. First of all, the correct move here is rook b4. It works against white plan to transfer the queen to the king side, brings the rook to the defense, and stops white's plan. So this move will keep the equality in the position, dynamic equality. And if white plays through queen d1 and tries to transfer, you can see that such lines stop this plan before even it starts. So rook b4 was the right move, but instead in the game rook fd8 was played, which doesn't stop. And so white plays queen d1 to quickly transfer the queen towards the king side. Here black makes a mistake. He should play d4, bring the bishop in the game, and to divert white from attacking on the king side. But a3 does none of that. The queen goes to d4 and is already prepared to go towards the king side. Tries to fix its mistake by trying to exchange queens, but it's too late. Even if it plays queen g6 here, it's going to be very bad because the rook can come to g3, the knight to d4. Not good for black here. It's too late. Tempos are very important in such positions. d4, e4. So black tries to bring this bishop back to the game, but white's pieces already are around the black king. h5. This tries to reduce the speed of the attack of white's. Cover g4 so that the rook will not come. Avoid checkmate. But white starts to invade on the dark squares. g5. Check. f6. Attacks f7. Defends f7. Attacks h7. f5. So now even the pawn that is on f6 becomes a participant in the attack. We have 4 attackers, and black has 1 defender only. So it's no wonder that attack is ferocious. Black tries as it can to provide some defense, but it is too late. Tempo wise, it is too late. Here white can play, of course, rook a e1, sacrifice in exchange, but the attack of course would be overwhelming. But the move played in the game, queen takes h5, is also good enough, and it does the job. More stubborn defense would have been king g7, king taking control of the dark squares. That was important, but wouldn't have saved the game because knight would still take e6 and the attack would have continued. But it was a more stubborn defense. But in the game, king h8 was played, which allows white to take control of the dark squares in the attack. And now white is threatening f6 checkmate. So rook has to take, and with the tempo, knight goes to e5, and the last defender of the king, e6, measly defender, also is falling. The queen has to move. As you can see, the queen and the rook are away from the defense of the king, and only the bishop is now defending the king, but it is not sufficient. The knight and the queen deal will finish the job. First, before continuing the attack, saves the rook, and the bishop finally arrives at the defense, but a little too late. Now all white has to do is to reposition the queen and the knight in such a way to finish the job. So the knight jumps to d7, attacking the rook, but most importantly getting closer to the king. So the rook has to move, check. Of course here the queen is targeting g7 square with the knight to checkmate. So here of course black resigned, but defense is rook c7, which is giving up a rook. So there was no point playing, and black resigned here because checkmate is not far away. White is threatening knight h5 and the g7 checkmate, and there is no way to stop that. Black has to give up a rook by playing c7 and just queen can take. So this was the game. Black was playing very well, to be honest. Only when he should have played rook before to transfer the rook to the center to counter white's attack on the king side. He didn't. He played rook f8 and queen a3. This move gave white enough tempo to transfer an attack, especially to transfer the white queen to the king side and start an attack. And after that, the tempos were on white side. Black couldn't bring enough defenses. Thank you.